Welcome to Diary of an Unemployed Actor with me, Milo Dennison. Each week I speak with up-and-coming actors, actresses, and filmmakers about the entertainment industry. We discuss success, failure, and share a few tips to inspire those of you who have a passion for the creative arts. This week I'm speaking with Quinn Angell. He is a Texas-based actor who's been working for quite a number of years, primarily, I shouldn't say primarily, he's done theater, film, and voiceover, and we primarily focus on voiceover for the purpose of this conversation. We also swap a few theater stories. All right, no more introduction needed. Here you go. So is your last name pronounced Angel, is that right?
Yep, you nailed it. It's Angel.
Okay. We'll make sure it wasn't like Angle or, some unusual pronunciation or something.
It's all good. I've had people go Angel, and I'm staring going, I'm way too pale for that. I don't want to try and take that from someone else. That's I'm not that interesting.
Nice.
It's like I'm white and then more white somehow.
Most people I talk to want to be actors at a young age. They're like, I want to be actors, or even it's something they've always thought about. Like I just talked to a guy last week who's in his 50s when he got into acting. And it was one of those things he always wanted to do, but then finally got into it. You, however, didn't really have an interest in it.
It took a minute for it to really click. Like I enjoyed the idea of it. And I was being told like 10, it's like, oh, you're so dramatic. You should get into theater, like things like that. I'm like, wait, that's not a compliment. No. But then I did at about, around 8, my mom's, because when I was a kid, my parents got divorced and my mom started dating this guy that she had known for 7.5 years, who's also an actor. And he was why I got into it. I'm going to tell a quick offside because it's a funny story to me.
All right.
They went to college together for a little bit. Like they met at college and they both had a crush on each other and no one made the first move. So 7 years pass and both their friends know. And none of their friends go, hey, by the way, she likes you. Or by the way, he likes you. Just like, really? Oh, really? You decide to not help a friend out? No.
At some point, you'd be like, you got, just go ask her out. Why don't you do that?
Like really, if a friend isn't willing to do that for you, I question that level of friendship.
That friendship, exactly.
And I go, by the way, like, I'd let a friend know immediately. It's like,
oh, absolutely.
I got you, bud. No, but so he does voiceover work as well. You probably Dragon Ball Z. He did the role of Trunks. So he's done a lot of voiceover work over the years. Done stuff Dragon Ball Z. Does a bunch of other shows, but it was pretty early in his career, relatively, when I first met him. So, when he's trying to kind of get to know me and all that, I remember actually there was a convention in Dallas because that's where my family lived. And so we were all hanging out there, my mom and he was like trying to, impress the, his girlfriend's son and all that. He's like, look around all the vendors and all. It's like, hey, if there's anything, hey, pick one thing. It's like, and I can get it for you. And I was like 9 or 10 and incredibly awkward. And so I was like, okay. And I looked around and I picked up a pencil eraser.
Oh,
and he's like, there's a deal for 2. I'm like, no, just 1. He's like, okay. But he was the reason I got into it. Yeah, he asked if I was interested, and I was like, okay. And so I started taking classes at a children's theater, and then around 14, I did my first play and did that for a couple of years. And my parents were like, well, thank God it's not football. So they were.
You're like, that's good. He's not going to get a brain injury.
Exactly. No concussions. And then I gave myself a concussion in high school from theater.
Really?
Yeah.
A light fell on your head?
Something like that. No, I was in a musical and I was running around backstage. It was my off night. My on nights, I'm the lead. And then my off night, I'm ensemble and I'm supposed to get on stage with the lead for something. I don't even remember what. And the first time I forgot, this is the first time I've forgotten where I'm supposed to be. And so I'm just like, start walking off. And I go, what am I forgetting about? And I'm like, oh shit. And so I turn around, sprint the opposite way, like cutting through all my friends. And I run through backstage, and there's a 2x4 that's painted black, that exactly the right height. And I'm sprinting full force to go boom. I don't even remember hitting it. I just remember being on the ground going, how did I get here? So
did you get out on stage, or was it like somebody had to go out and cover for you?
I did it. I had a giant knot in my head, but I had hippie long hair. So I just moved my hair to cover this giant, and then I did it, and I did the rest of the show fine-ish. I sat down in the audience, and I was 17, and the mom of one of my castmates comes up to me. It's like, hey, Quinn, you seemed a little off tonight. Are you okay? And I just happened to be like feeling it. I moved, and she saw and went, holy shit. So texted my parents immediately. I was like, I think your son may have a concussion. Get down here.
That's hilarious. Like, oh crap, something's not right here.
Exactly. Jeez. Yeah. Crazy things happen during a show. It's kind of funny. You don't think about, I remember, it reminds me of, you remember when they had that musical Spider-Man musical in New York that was running? I got to go see it. I didn't want to see it, but I was going with a group of theater people, and it was and it's like this or something else. I'm like, please, the other thing. And everyone go, let's go see Spider-Man. I went, dang it. So went to see it, and I didn't care for it, but because there was like millions of dollars of losses because of injuries during that show. And we got to see they're on a zip line, basically, these Spider-Man actors, to show how fast he is swinging and all that. And it busted in the middle of like the guy going over the audience. It stopped in the middle. And so this guy's is just hanging over the audience and looking back at us, and we're looking at him, and it's like, if the line is 1/4 of an inch off or something like that, it will stop. And so for half an hour, this poor actor is just hanging over the audience and starts doing random things, like does the Superman pose and all that, like Running Man. Wow. I have some mad respect for that person. I wish I knew who that was.
Yeah. Well, especially because you've got that harness probably like riding up on you and squeezing all your junk in there and everything.
I know, that just sounds like I'd be getting way higher in my voice. I'd be like, well, I guess I'm ruined now.
That's funny. For such a high value production, you'd think they'd have things like that worked out to where that wouldn't happen so often.
I think, though, that's probably why that it stopped like that, because it's a safety mechanism. So it's like if it goes too far off, it may snap. So that's why it stopped. So it's like, to minimize the number of injuries. Honestly, a lot of those high flying ones are really dangerous. But I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted. I keep getting off
subject here. All right, well, let's get into like voiceover stuff, because you do quite a bit of voiceover. And what is it about kind of that got you into voiceover? Was it your father-in-law? Was it it's just another avenue of performing? Because you obviously do theater and film as well. But
I was doing my undergrad because I decided to go study theater. I decided finally about college to study theater. That's what I wanted to do. And I went to University of North Texas for it. And during the time I was there, I decided to check in looking for these auditions for the place that does most of the voiceover dubs in Texas, where most of one of the main ones in the United States. And that's in Flower Mound, which is like 45 minutes away from where I went to school. So I decided to go to an open call audition. And I made a point. I tried not to tell anyone who I was or anything like that, because I didn't want any bias going towards me. I wanted it be something I earn on my own, because I have very little respect for the whole amount of nepotism that can go into the industry. And so I wanted to get it for myself.
So because your father-in-law is a well-known voiceover actor,
you didn't want stepdad.
What did I say? Sorry. Yeah. Father-in-law, your stepdad. Yeah. Sorry.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
You never know. Might be the same, whatever.
Who knows? It's the South.
Come on. Isn't that how it works down there?
God.
Not that deep of South. All right.
Not that.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Yes, your stepdad. So because he's a well-known voiceover actor, you didn't want people to be like, "Hey, this is his son. We'll give him kind of a step up."
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want preferential treatment. So, although it was funny, of course, the person who did my audition, I knew. So I'm like,
Oh.
"Oh, hey, Chris." But thankfully, he didn't recognize me for a second. I'm like, "All right, it's all good. Don't worry about it." But did it, got in, and they did Walla, like a lot of background voices, and I did mostly that for a while. And so that's how I really got into it. I found out when the open call was, I signed up for it. But now they don't do it anymore because there was an issue with a lot of people who aren't actors coming in for that. That was a big issue, is that a lot of people who, like, there's nothing wrong with enjoying anime and all that, but there are a lot of people with no training and all that going, "Hey, but I can do a Goku voice or something like that." It's like, no, that's not what we want. We already have a Goku. We already have Sean Schimmel. We already have all these people. We need you to know how to act, and so that we can put you in things.
You're right. A lot of people probably like, "Oh, I do this funny voice. I should be a voiceover actor," or something like that, but don't really kind of realize that you are still performing in a lot of ways. So how does that performance change from, say, voice versus film? Like, what are you doing that kind of really makes it kind of stand out and kind of get those voiceover gigs?
Well, it's just with voiceover, it's kind of like the story is being told with your voice, especially in doing an audition or something like that. You've got to be able to tell the story of what's going on and kind of be able to imbibe the character and what they're going through in that moment, especially an audition for voiceover when oftentimes you have very little context of what's going on or really exactly who that person is. Like, odds are there's a good chance no one's going to tell you he had a tragic backstory. His village was burned down. I mean, sometimes they'll tell you that, but there's a certain level of detail that maybe the director doesn't know yet or has missed. And so you're kind of just by your own voice, versus with film, you've got all these things going on to kind of help tell a story, your expression, mostly oftentimes it's in your eyes from film, versus on voiceover, which it relies on your voice to be able to tell exactly what's going on, the feeling and all that. And so it relies a lot more on your voice versus film, which relies on the whole thing. But yeah.
Do you bring the performance kind of up or down? Because I'm thinking stage and film, right? So on stage, you kind of go a little over, versus film, you kind of maybe go a little under, or, keep it a bit more subtle. Where does voice kind of rank in that?
And it's coming nowadays. It seems to be more and more. They want more naturalistic. They want more film versus theater. Theater, they want the training of theater, but they want you not to bring it in, not to bring it down, but bring it internal for the when you're doing voiceover or film. From what I've noticed, it seems to be they want more naturalistic, and I've noticed a lot of the casting calls are like that. And so they don't want cartoony and anime really as much anymore. Yeah, there's some shows where it's like, yeah, that's definitely given you, this is out there and all that. But as a general rule, it's been a thing that they want it to be more natural, more lifelike in how a regular person talks.
Speaking of that, do you go in sometimes with a character in mind, or is it more your natural performance voice and then you adjust it based on any feedback that they give you in the room?
Oftentimes, okay, so for example, the role that I booked that into this last year or two really has been it's from Golden Kamuy, and the voice was actually a bit part. It was originally thought it was supposed to just be a walla bit. So it's like, thought it was just a bit one line off and that was it. And then it turns out later on, it's actually like one of the bad guy's right-hand men, basically. It's like, oh, okay. And so I had picked the voice. Because usually you get to you do like, one go where you see like the Japanese version, and then you go for a run of you doing the line or whatever. And so you have that fast to make your choices, So especially in Walla sessions, so I got to look at it, and I picked a deeper voice because he was a soldier. So you try and match what in your head, looking at what he looks like. This is what he's probably going to sound like, and try and make it not go too crazy about, but try and bring it closer to the character while still sounding natural about it.
Yeah. So they'll show you what the character looks like, and you kind of try to quickly create a voice for how you feel that character should sound.
Yeah. And I mean, it helps sometimes. They do give you, they have the Japanese one, but you don't want, obviously, you don't want to do that. But so you do your own thing, but it helps, especially if it's like a super deep voice, you're not going to go, hey.
Right. Is that a Japanese animation that they're now dubbing into English? Say it again. Kamui? Okay.
Kamui, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I'm not butchering it. It'd be terrible for 3 years. I'm just butchering the Kamui. They're like, this white guy keeps messing it up every time.
One of these days they'll be like, how did this guy work here like all this time and still not can't pronouncing it right?
I know. It's like, really? He messes this up and he does Russian in the show? Really? He can do no, but yeah, it's Golden Kamuy. It's been going on for a couple of years. It's it's in season 3 right now, and it seems to be kind of when I've been doing the most of my work because, well, as part of it, I had to. They give me I've had to do a translation of Russian, so I'm like having to speak Russian a little bit while talking because we're like in a region that has a lot of Russian people, and so I've had to learn to speak some Russian through. But thankfully, it's like the pronunciation. I'm like given a lot of time to work on it because I don't naturally speak Russian, obviously, so it's something I've had to work on, but it's been a fun challenge.
How's your Russian accent?
Not doing it well. I'm doing the words, so I don't have to do the accent, thankfully. But
so everything you say is in Russian for this character?
No. It's like I'm like a translator, a soldier who so this is set in after the Russo-Japanese War. So my character was a translator from then. He was a Japanese soldier who had to learn to speak Russian. And so occasionally I'll have to communicate with someone. And so sorry, I'm trying to think how to put this because I don't want to do any spoilers. I'm like, hold on. But
no worries.
I'll have to to try and find a person who's been missing. So I have to go, where's this person? All that. And occasionally I'll have to threaten someone. And there's one where I threatened to cut off someone's finger. And I'm trying to remember which one it was. I can't remember for the life of me which one was because there's a couple I still remember of the Russian. It's like this one I think is like, have you seen this man? Nikoton is nayev or something like that.
Sounds Russian to me.
Yeah.
So how did you then get this part if you don't natively speak Russian? And so I'm curious what the audition story and how you got the part.
Well, it's like I said, it was originally a bit part and they didn't know who he was actually. And so it was more of a surprise, like, oh, and then third season, everyone went, oh, he speaks Russian actually. And so it was more like I had already got the part in season 2 doing more. I did it's like a bit of an Indiana Jones type of episode where I was like fighting the good guys in season 2. And then season 3, then we find out that I have to speak Russian. And so they sent me some stuff about, the words as well as like the how to pronounce it. And so I would spend like a week getting ready, just working on it. And so thankfully, I'm not having to do like a whole entire paragraph speaking in Russian because I just immediately start sweating. Like, I don't know, man. maybe I should go in hiding or something.
So what's the story with the dildo then? Okay,
that is actually
because we can talk about that on this podcast. That's fine.
There was okay. That's from this. Okay, that was back in theater. I was in a musical called Rent.
Everybody knows Rent. Yep,
everyone knows Rent. Everyone, God help us. So it is. I was in the theater. I was 21 at the time, and I had gotten dragged into it because personally, I'm not a huge fan of Rent. Not because of material. I just don't much care for it. I think it's a little. Everyone's dying. Everything's terrible. I'm like, okay, but I was cast in the chorus as like I was. What the director put is here. You are a drunk homeless Santa, and so I was like, great. And so I dressed up. I had a Santa outfit. I trashed the shit out of it, made it look terrible, and had a Maker's Mark bottle that I filled with tea that I messed with it so it looked like I was drinking whiskey constantly. And so I'm backstage at one point during it's like second weekend shows, and one of the actresses just got texted by the director who's in the booth going, "Hey, you need to go on stage. You need to go get the dildo." I'm like, fucking dildo? Why is there a dildo? And apparently, I had never noticed this. Apparently, one of the actor who played Angel used a dildo in the song, like had with held on to dildo or something. Like, I don't remember that being a thing, but okay. And so I came out, and center stage is this big black dildo, just center stage, lit up by the light. Like it had fallen off a cart or something in the perfect spot to be lit up, and no one else is out. And so I just saunter out, my Santa outfit, looking like shit. I look around, I grab it and stuff in my pants and keep going.
During a performance?
Yeah, it was during a show. And it's a minute of silence. So
the audience is like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, this is an interesting interpretation of Rand.
I don't remember seeing that in a previous production, but okay, sure, that works.
That worked. I mean, they laughed, so I'm like, oh, thank God it worked.
That's one thing I like about live theater, though, is you have these random things that happen, and that's actually part of what makes it fun, like stuff like that. Like when I tripped over, I remember once I was in a show, and I basically goes to blackout, and I'm just supposed to exit the stage and exit through a door. And right next to the door was this really short bookshelf. And so, of course, you're on stage, the lights are bright, and as soon as it goes dark, you can't see anything. And so you basically I know where the door is, and I'm walking towards the door, and literally hit the bookshelf instead of the door, and I'm going over. And luckily, there was somebody standing on the other side, one of the stage crew, and kind of caught me. But apparently you could hear me in the audience from the background, basically doing oh shit, as I'm falling over this bookshelf. And it's like,
oh God.
So, stuff like that makes it worthwhile.
It's funny the things that you nearly happen. I fell on glass on stage once too. I don't know how this was. I was in a Neil Simon play, and I tripped, and I landed on glass on stage, and I don't know where it came from. We never had glass. And this was some time I was 17. So that year was a rough year for me. Now that I think about it, I got hurt a lot. I don't know why, but I had looked, and there was this glass sticking on my hand, and I look over, and the actress, who's already really pale, is somehow getting paler. And I'm like, for some reason, I decide while still doing the dialogue just to pull it out, just like, oh. And I could see her, and then sit down real slow, and I go, just grab a pillow and stuff. I just desperately just stuff down there. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm not passing out yet, I guess. It worked.
It's that adrenaline paying off.
No, yeah, that's that whole stage health thing. I swear by that. You will pull it together for a show at the last second. Usually.
Oh, it's totally true. Yeah, dedicated. You're like, oh no, I'm going to work through this. And because you don't want to be the one person that fucks it up for any reason.
Oh, exactly. You don't want to be that asshole.
No, yeah. You're like, okay, if I'm unconscious completely, that's an excuse. Beyond that, I'm going.
If I am absolutely incapacitated, fine.
Well, that's I know this isn't on either of us, but that, what was that Mission Impossible thing with Tom Cruise, whether you're a fan or not, but he, in the last Mission Impossible movie, he jumped across a roof and broke his foot in the jump. And what's interesting, and he was still ziplined in and stuff, but he does the jump, and he doesn't quite make it. And
he lands wrong,
breaks his foot,
Ooh.
But still manages to kind of get up, pull himself off, and keep running. And I saw an interview, and he was talking about it, and he was like, I knew my foot was broken, but I knew if we don't get it on this take, it's not happening because my foot's broken,
yeah.
So he gets up, forces himself to kind of run the rest of the way. And then they have to, of course, shut production down for a few weeks with his broken foot.
Yeah. He's someone I definitely he's an interesting person, and has definitely rather eccentric, but I offer some serious respect in terms of he does his own stunts. I remember stuff like that. I do remember, I think there was one movie, one of the Mission Impossible movies, he's actually tied to a plane or something like that. And he actually did something like that. And I'm left going, okay, I believe in doing your stunts and all that, but there's certain all right, there's the line. So I got some respect for pushing through even with a broken foot, because wow.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like him or not as an actor, I kind of feel the same way. I do kind of respect him for his dedication.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so let's jump back to your career. So what are you doing now? Is it mostly just voiceover work with everything being shut down? Are you actually getting voiceover work?
I've been doing voiceover work mostly. This is, like I said, this has mostly been recording for Golden Kamuy, but That's pretty much been mostly what's going on. And there's been like, a couple months ago last year, there'd be a couple of other, I'd be in for other shows once in a while for background voices or something like that. But yeah, they've been doing like home setups now, thankfully, and all that. So it's not, voiceover work is a little easier to work with. I feel like, it is way easier to work with than trying to do a film set because, they have all their COVID protocols now and things like that. Meanwhile, with voiceover, odds are you're able to go, hey, I got home set up, and you can just go record, do the stuff. And so it's a lot less of a hassle. So it's possible to do it.
Are they doing filming in Texas right now?
Some things are, commercials are, other things, but it's a lot slower than it was. And especially considering that a lot of them are having to dedicate a good amount of funding towards COVID protocols. Mind you, of course, there's student films and all that, who it's like, please don't be sick and show up.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. When you get here, we'll make you wash your hands and,
we'll give you hand sanitizer.
Put masks on in between scenes and stuff, and we'll call it like that. But yeah, I agree. Like I was on a major production here a few months back, and I was really impressed with the COVID protocols. Like I felt safer in that production than I do going to the grocery store when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, they tested us multiple times throughout the production. They, were hardcore about mask wearing and keeping people separated. And it was so funny because making sure your masks were on in between takes. And literally it was like, as soon as the take was over, put your mask on, take it off for the take, put it back on. Like they were hardcore strict about it. It was pretty impressive.
I respect that. I think that's the way we need to go with this in order for us to be able to actually come back as an industry, since, especially considering so many people, especially in the United States, are kind of like, no, it's infringing my freedoms. It's like, dude, it's keeping people from dying. Stop it.
I know, totally. It's like, you wear clothes every day, right? So
exactly. No shoes, no shirt, no service. I don't see what the problem is with put your mask on.
Exactly. It's not hard. It doesn't hurt you. That's my argument with people too, is I'm like, because people are like, it doesn't do anything anyways. And I'm like, well, maybe it doesn't, but it doesn't hurt. Right. Yeah. It doesn't cause you physical pain to put a fucking mask on your face when you're in a fucking grocery store.
Yeah. It's funny. It's the same people that are Tom's like, don't be whiners and mocking, our generation. And it's kind of like, really, man, you're going to bitch about masks and then constantly poke us. You guys are so snowflakes.
Yeah.
Okay,
not really.
Man. I don't know about that.
Because we don't cry about wearing masks.
And it's funny having I apologize for any people who are actually named Karen, but the Karens out there, it's like they lose their mind about those kind of things.
Nobody's naming their child Karen anymore.
No, I feel bad. I feel bad for anyone who's actually Karen, who's nice, because it's like, I'm a nice person. I'm like, yeah, but your name got ruined. Yeah. You might want to focus on that middle name of yours. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Sucks.
It sucks.
So for voiceover work, how do you usually find voiceover work? Is it through your agent, through, online backstage, that kind of stuff?
You can do a lot of stuff backstage. Actors Access has a lot of stuff usually. Honestly, you can usually find things like look online, look into Casting Call Club and things like that for if you're trying to get into the industry. Mm-hmm. But I always say be cautious, especially if it's not like a proper company, because you never know if someone's trying to, hose you over. Someone, always be on watch for someone trying to scam you. And you can look and find ways to, if your spider sense starts tingling, you should trust your spider sense. But I find it usually through backstage or Actors Access, or if you manage to get in. Funimation now, for example, you have to have your agent, and it has to be a reputable one to get you in to do voiceover work, and then your agent will get you in. But I had already been doing it before I got my new agent, and so I introduced him. So now she takes care of, she gets everything scheduled and all that. So yeah, it's through the agent nowadays, oftentimes.
Do you go in maybe not now, but maybe before the pandemic, like how often are you in the studio there versus recording at home, for example?
Oh, okay. I was not recording at home. They weren't really doing that, but unless you were like in LA or something like that. But if you were Yeah. So before then you would just come in, but nowadays you have the option where you can come in, and they actually are handling it really well. I'll give them that. They have a very, very safe, like you do not encounter really a human being in the hallway. You get like you let them know, you let them know that they're here, whoever's the person, and then they let you in and you go down the hall by yourself, and you follow these arrows towards wherever you're supposed to go. You know where to go. You don't encounter anyone. You go in there. There's an anyone in a booth. You close the door and you do it. And you have all these things like you can put they have these little pads to put on the microphone so you don't risk contaminating anything.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah. So if you do it right, you don't have to see a single soul. It's a perfect introvert's dream.
Yeah. On the other side of a window somewhere, there's a voice telling you what to do. And
oh yeah. Well, usually the directors are, some of them, I don't know if they're there, but I think a lot of them are at home just to minimize the amount of people. So it's kind of funny being there and then knowing that your director's probably at home in their pajamas or something like that. Like they're going, yeah, I'm going to need you to put more balls in the character. All right.
Nice. What's your home setup like?
My home setup, I have a little bit of foam over here that I use, although the microphone I have is good, but generally they want stuff like a Neumann or something like that. But so I've been recording, actually, my parents live down the street. I bought a house 10 minutes away from my parents' house. My dad has his own home studio, so I just drive over there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know everyone should just drive to their parents' house where there's a professional microphone and interface set up. But I got like a Rode NT1 and the AI one? Yeah, okay. AI one interface, and it does good work. It's solid, but I think it's pretty much like just the tier before. It's like the really high quality microphones that they'll ask you if you're doing like broadcast or a show. So
okay. So depending on the project, it'll be like, okay, you need to be using this quality of equipment, and so when you need that higher quality, you can head down the street. That's nice for you, and that's handy. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I'll take it.
All right. So a couple more questions here and we can wrap up. What advice would you give to anybody that wants to get into voiceover work?
First things first, and I will say this to anyone who asks this, I'll even tell this to anyone who doesn't ask. Do theater. Find a way to do theater. Find a way to act in any way. And I know some people will say, well, but I don't really want to do that. Then you're not really interested in acting. You're interested in just doing voiceover. You need to do acting and theater because you get the training there that you can pull inside so you can do your voiceover work. Take as many classes as you can. There are lots of really good classes. Check in with your buddies that are in the industry, or if you can, find out like what classes they recommend and just get as much training as possible, because a lot of people who are willing to hire you, they don't want to have to develop you. They don't want to have to train you themselves while they're literally paying you. They're paying you to know what you're doing. So they want to direct you to where, and you need to be directable. So you need to have training and develop your technique and skills so that they can direct you into the performance they want.
No, it's perfect. Good advice, because it is true that how much work goes into it that you don't realize. People think, oh, you just go in, you say the lines is believable. And it's like, no, you gotta, there's a lot more to it than that. And yeah, you're right. Yeah. Professional acting training is the way to go. So yeah, good advice.
Thanks. It's one of those things that it's like that image, and it gets annoying when you see those like motivational, inspirational images, but it's like the iceberg one. It's like the tip of it is like the performance, and then underneath it is years of training, all these classes, constantly just, it's just years of work oftentimes. And if you're not willing to do that, then my question is, how dedicated is someone to actually doing it?
Totally. Next question, social media or anything like that. If people want to track you down, where would they find you?
Mine is on Twitter. I have Quinn Angell. On Instagram, it's Daniel Quinn Angell. My first name's Daniel, but no one calls me that if they actually know me. No one. Nah, for some reason, I've always just gone by Quinn. It's like one of those things where I always just preferred how it sounded. In college, everyone's named Daniel. It seems like half the guys are named Daniel. And so it's like, Quinn, there we go. Boom. I don't have to worry about it. There is not going to be another Quinn in here, odds are. And if there are, I have to kill them. It's required. We have to fight each other to the death. It's brutal, man.
All right. And last question, Golden Kamuy, where can people watch it if they want to see it?
Golden Kamuy, you can look on the
I know I keep mispronouncing it. Golden,
dude,
where can people see that?
Dude, it's all good. Everyone, it's hard to not mispronounce things because oftentimes doing, an anime, it's a Japanese show. And it is one of those things where you'll have to ask a couple times, like, how do you say that? It's this, right? But you just get used to it. But you can find it on the Funimation website, the app they have, because I know Sony bought Crunchyroll, but I have no idea what they're doing with that. If they're going to start like showing both, Funimation shows on there as well, because Sony owns both Funimation and Crunchyroll now.
Okay.
So
probably combine them, I imagine. I don't know. I
have no idea, and and that's way above my pay grade to try and even guess at that. So it's on the Funimation website. It's we're in season 3. and it's going strong. It's a hilarious show. If you like Indiana Jones mixed with, I guess, kind of like JoJo a little bit. It's a funky show.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Also, Not for kids. It's got a lot of blood. Not sure about guts, but probably guts and stabbings and lots of cussing and half naked men. Mostly naked.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Podcast listeners, you want blood, guts, and half naked men, all animated? Golden Kamuy's the Kamuy?
Yeah. Kamuy, you got that. You got it, man. Dude, it's all good. Maybe I should from now on, just every time I just intentionally mispronounce every time just to confuse anyone.
Screw people up. Yeah.
Done. Let's go.
Sweet. All right. Well, that was great, man. Thanks for chatting with me. I know we kept getting off track there, but it was all interesting subjects. So
no, it's all good. It's a natural wave conversation. So I had a lot of fun. Thanks, man.